Welcome to It's Been How Long? The podcast about Cherry Hill High School East students from the late 1970s and early 80s. This is Kara Siegel. Well, I'd like to welcome in John Sorrell to the It's Been How Long podcast studio today. Hi, John. How are you?
How you doing?
Good.
Never
Good.
done one of these things before, so and I think the best thing to do is to get warm and just like talk.
Sounds good.
So
Sounds
you'll be
good.
my first podcast ever.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm honored and thank you for being on with us today. So, I know you haven't had the opportunity to see these, but we've been talking with all of our, or all of it, we're talking with classmates that I've connected with through Facebook about our experiences back in the 70s at Cherry Hill East. And usually start with it's been 40, almost 44 years since we graduated. So what are you up to? Where are you and what are you doing?
Well, I moved to Los Angeles over 30 years ago with a new wife, a new son, and a 6-year-old stepson, and we've never left. We've been out here all these years. I mean, things have changed, times have changed, and I'm sure that you could probe into some of those things over time in this conversation. But yeah, that's where I ended up in Burbank, California,
Okay. And what are you doing?
which
What
in
keeps you?
many ways was like Cherry Hill.
Oh, okay. What are you doing? What keeps you busy?
I When I left high school, I ran into the situation where my father made too much money for me to get any money, and there's my son, my youngest son. Cool out there, Derek. I'm on the phone. Okay, and but he didn't make enough that I couldn't get any. So I was looking at Stockton, and I looked at a couple of other schools, and he gave me a brochure. He was working for INA that became Cigna for the College of Insurance. And when I say that, every time I say that, nobody's ever heard of that school. It's like, what? I didn't even know they had a College of Insurance, but it was an awesome program. And they basically gave me a scholarship. I was sponsored by Reliance Insurance Company out of Philly, who was pretty big at the time. And they paid for most of my school. And to give you some perspective on the College of Insurance, it ultimately ended up getting bought by St. John's University. So now I'm alumni to people from St. John's. But the school, what I liked about it was that it was in New York City. They gave you a work study program where you went to school for 4 months and then you worked for 4 months for the insurance company that usually was sponsoring you. And most of us were became very ahead of the game. Half of the students were family that maybe their parents owned an agency or something, and so they knew about the school, or and a bunch of very, very extremely rich international students, where the father owned the family owned the biggest insurance company in Taiwan, and they would send their kid there, and so ultimately became a very interesting, well-rounded. It was right in the Wall Street area. It was right in the bottom of one of the companies, and then he ended up buying a building at the near the World Trade Center. So if you look at where the World Trade Center got destroyed, there's a little building. I think that the building actually survived on Murray Street. That the College of Insurance, like almost like right next to the World Trade Center, and that's where I ended up going to school, and that school dictated the next almost 30 years of my life, because I was very, very, I would consider myself pretty successful in the insurance business, and got to do a lot, see a lot, and they're the ones that I moved to California with Transamerica Insurance Company, who promoted me to a management position, um, and that's how I end up in California.
Hmm. And so what kind of insurance do you sell, or is it a particular do you do underwriting or just insurance policies or
I started out handling claims. I was the first one that they put through the claims department, and I liked it because there was a transition in my life when I was in New York City where I wasn't sure if I had applied to be a New York City cop,
Hmm.
and the pay was pretty good. But then I had all this insurance background, and I was credentials and experience, and you don't find many 20-year-olds that had that experience. And this guy Ellis Wilkerson, actually, he went. Most of us fell into the college. This guy liked insurance,
Hmm.
and he was talking about risk management before anybody. I mean, I'm going back, what, I was in college, so that's more than 35, 40 years. He was talking
Yeah.
about risk management then.
Right.
People didn't really know what that was. I didn't know what it was, and he pointed me in the right direction with that stuff. And we were roommates for about a maybe a year and a half or so. And because of him, I ended up graduating college with, I think I had 6 of the CPCUs out of 10 already completed, and or no, maybe 8. And so, and you only need 10. And
Hmm.
I mean, if you research this after we're done, and you see, I mean, a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to get those designations in the industry, and here we are able to graduate college and already have them. So, and I kind of brought that came to mind to me because, like I said, I was still looking at this New York police officer thing, because I heard that, if you had a college degree, or they would you were fast tracked to higher ranks. But I probably would have started out working in the subway, which was pretty dangerous back then,
Mm.
and still is today, I guess. And so at the same time, one of the Hanover Insurance Company offered me a job for about $1,000 more and gave me a company car. So I said, well, I think I'll just go do that safe insurance thing.
Yeah.
So when I graduated, probably before I even graduated college, I had that job and the company car, and I was in New York City, and I had a girlfriend, and we were living in East Flatbush. I think you asked me what type of insurance did I do. I mean, I became almost everything.
Okay.
Like, I have all the insurance licenses to sell.
Hmm.
Most of my career I didn't sell. Most of my career I was an underwriting manager. I mean, there came a point where I looked at the claims people, and we had a lot of pressure, and we worked super hard. And the underwriting and marketing and brokerage people, they worked less, and they did was go to lunch, in really expensive restaurants, and they made more money. So I switched over. I got into the underwriting side, and I did that for many, many years.
That's great. So you're still practicing in insurance, underwriting, selling, whatever.
I Yeah, right now I do loss control inspections, which I'm the guy that goes out and I look at like if there's a construction project and they need somebody to go out and see if pull all the risk management information out, take pictures of it, write up an assessment for the insurance underwriting people to decide whether or not they like it or don't like it, or if there's a problem there or something like that. So that's what I'm doing currently.
Okay. Okay. So what do you do for fun? I know you're a big basketball fan.
Um, you know, COVID killed a lot of my fun. I am a huge basketball fanatic. I played regularly from being a kid all the way till COVID shut it down. I mean, I'm in
Mm.
my 60s. I was one of the oldest guys on the court, and and then when COVID hit, I got sick. I was still playing in the league because, I mean, what we didn't get into is how I ended up partially in Mexico and partially in Los Angeles. But even while COVID was like in the middle of the full swing, they had a basketball league opened in Mexico,
Mm.
and I was playing in that league. I was never one of those people that felt that. I always felt that you can't hide from the disease. You're going to get it no matter what. So I was never one that was kind of scared of it. And I mean, the whole family I'm sure had gotten sick. and I but until then they finally shut everything down. Once they shut that down, when you're in your 60s, you know coming back is not easy. and
Oh
and I
yeah,
still
that's for sure.
and I still smoke off and on.
Yeah.
I'm not like a huge smoker, but a small off and on. If I averaged a cigarette a day, that would probably be a lot. But it still has impacted me,
Mm.
and I haven't really made it back physically, which I do need to do. I currently have a 10-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter, but probably more the son than the daughter. I need to start getting into some physical activity with them. I have older kids. I have a 33-year-old and the 36, or no, he's like 40 now, stepson.
Mm.
And during most of their lives, I was more physically superior. I was in great shape, and they would have been on the court with me maybe. But now I'm a little older and I need to work my way back. But if I was doing anything for fun, it would have been basketball. I have to find another hobby.
Okay.
Rather
Pickleball
than
seems to be all the rage.
who?
Pickleball seems to be all the rage.
Well, what's pickleball?
Pickleball is like you shrink down a tennis court and you shrink down the rackets and you don't have as much court to cover. Most people play doubles. They have slightly different rules. So it's kind of like I don't know, like playing ping pong on a tennis court. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But it's a lot of fun. It's
I
pretty
think I've
fast.
seen something like that on Venice Beach.
Maybe. Yeah. So
But yeah, that I gotta find something else to do. I really don't. I mean, when I was in high school, I guess I was into photography. I took those classes, and um, I mean, I like taking pictures, and I like messing around with the art of that. But I really haven't had any other hobby.
you played
You
football
know,
back in high school as well, right? Basketball, football.
yeah, I played basketball, football. I probably should have done wrestling.
Oh, okay.
I years later, at the time when I grew up, like they really weren't taking black quarterbacks in Cherry Hill East.
Mm,
I even in the little midget football leagues and things like that. So they never really would put me in that position. But the funny thing is, whenever we used to play football in the street, I was always the quarterback, and we always used to win. But but none of the coaches and my father was too busy to really. He wasn't really he played sports and he got us into basketball and he watched sports and he was a football fan from watching, but he really wasn't involved in like how some parents like groom their kids to do certain things. So
sure.
we were kind of on our own, and so it was kind of like whatever the coaches decided. And I remember playing midget football in Cherry Hill, and in sixth grade I was a pretty good size. I wasn't 6 foot then, but I was big, and I was one of the bigger sixth graders. And what they did to you was, if you were bigger, you couldn't play running back or quarterback. You had to play line.
Okay.
So they put me on the line. And so by the time I got to ninth grade, there's no way they put me in quarterback. They had me as and I didn't really think of these things until many years later,
Hmm.
because they had me playing line, defensive end. I played defensive end, and the funny thing is, in fact, at junior high school on the basketball team, they had me play center. I was the center. Now I'm 6 feet tall. I never
Yeah.
got any taller than 6 feet, which 6 feet's a decent height, but it's
Yeah.
not center. It's
Right.
not
No.
center. It's
No.
not even small forward.
Right.
But they had me play center. They had me play center on the freshman. They had me play center and power forward on the freshman team in high school at Cherry Hill,
Yeah.
which total two positions totally out of position for me. So I had to learn to do the things that I needed to do for a person my size on my own, because the coaches weren't putting me in those roles. They actually, like you said, they would look, like I said, they were looking at smaller guys to play the guard. Well, maybe he's not as good. He's smaller, but he's guard, but he maybe is not as good
That's,
as a guard.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's funny because many years later, I helped a kid, and I was coaching my son, and we had the best player, like, in the league,
Yeah.
and he was about almost 6 feet tall, and he was like in fifth or sixth grade, but he was more powerful and stronger than everybody in the league. And I made sure I didn't do that to him.
Right.
I said, "Yeah, you're the most powerful guy on the court, but you might not always be." So I made sure that he learned how to dribble, learn how to shoot, gave him the freedom to do some of these other things. And to this day, this kid is his name is Chad. He has the same name as my brother. I think he is grateful to me for that, because when he went to high school, he started out as like a forward, and he ended up as a shooting guard, and then finally he ended up, before he graduated in his last year, he was the point guard of the team.
So,
So he had the skill set to progress all through that, and they used him that way. Where I think I was for both football and basketball. I think I was misused,
yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not, football and basketball weren't my thing. But what when I bring up the wrestling, that's the other thing I thought about, is that I I I should have been on. I think I would have been one of the best wrestlers, because they can't really change that, since it's so individual. It's just up to you. It's you and that other guy.
Right. All right. So did you have the opportunity to do any kind of job in high school?
Um, let's see. I worked for the country Woodcrest Country Club as a dishwasher,
Ah, okay.
and then I worked in. My father. My father was a executive for INA, and they had, but he was a computer guy,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a huge data center in Voorhees, New Jersey. I mean, it was huge. Um, and they had us painting all the ceiling tiles. Well, they had us doing maintenance work, but that's what we ended up doing. Me and this guy, our job was to paint the ceiling tiles all summer.
Oh wow.
But
Wow.
and then I had a snow business where I would do people's um, uh,
Walks.
snow, and then I took my father's lawnmower, and I had those. I had maybe 4 or 5 lawns. Had I stayed in Cherry Hill, I probably would have had a lawn business. Some of those guys did really well.
Yeah.
Like some of the guys that I knew, like I think Doug Cook and
Oh yeah. No, no.
Mark Weichert. Both of those guys took those little lawn businesses that we had and turned it into pretty big, successful businesses.
Oh, that's great. So you're mentioning you're in Mexico now. Have you had a chance to travel around Mexico or other places all these
Um,
years?
you know, I've my grandmother. I considered my grand. This makes me think of my grandmother, because I considered my grandmother a pioneer, a black woman that traveled everywhere. And her husband, my grandfather, usually didn't want to go. He only wanted to go. He went to Hawaii with her, and that's it. But she went everywhere else by with her girlfriends or on her own. So there became one point in my life where I became I'm definitely a traveling fiend. I've been all over Mexico, in a car and by plane. And then some of those jobs that I had in the insurance industry took me all over the world. So
Oh, cool.
I've been to throughout Asia many times, many, probably 10 or 15. I counted the countries. I only know them because I counted them for my grandmother, and I had surpassed her. I've been
Ah,
to 26 countries.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a lot of
And
travel.
yeah, at the time, the travel that I was doing probably is part of the reason for I ended up. Well, I never got divorced. We were separated, but
Hmm.
but we never got divorced. Um, but I looked at it one year. I was working for a company called AIG. I don't know if you know who they are.
Yeah,
A
I've
lot of
seen
people
their
do.
advertised. Yeah.
I was handling Asia for them for one of their companies for about 2 years. So I was doing quarterly trips to 10 countries.
Oh,
Very
wow.
interesting time in my life. Lived like a king.
Hmm.
Um, uh, I would go to Japan, Hong Kong, Korea, Seoul, Korea, all the big cities, any place you could go without a visa, without
Hmm.
having to get a visa. At that time, they really didn't want us messing around in mainland China because they were trying to open up some doors and they didn't want some rogue employee doing something that might cause them to end up
It,
with an issue.
sure.
And so we Philippines, you didn't need a visa there. Where else did we go? Indonesia.
Hmm.
I would go to Jakarta, Malaysia,
Singapore.
um, Singapore,
Hmm.
Thailand.
Oh, neat. So
Um,
you've really seen, did you get to do any kind of um sightseeing, or was it all just business?
well, they were 30. They were trips that were almost 30 days.
Um,
So there was almost a month that I would be gone to do the whole all those places, and so there was weekends,
yeah.
and I was pretty well funded. So um, what I would do is I could spend the weekend wherever I wanted to, and usually I would either go to Thailand or the Philippines for the weekend because the dollar was very, very strong in both of those places, and both of those places were a lot of fun. And the Philippines was really good because they spoke English too.
Hmm.
Where some of the other countries, you're struggling with language.
Sure.
So I would say I got around in the Philippines. The some of I the local AIG people were clients of mine too. So those guys would take me places.
Hmm.
And I remember the Filipino guy, he took me way out into the middle of the Philippines somewhere where they didn't really have a hotel. You kind of slept in like an outside cabin because it was warm there too, and there was volcanoes out there and all that. But I really wasn't I'm not really a tourist museum person. I'm more I was the same. I'm the same guy anywhere I went. I would find a pickup basketball game. Every every single country I found a pickup basketball game. Philippines was one of the reasons why I liked it is because they were at the time probably the best basketball players in Asia, and I played pickup ball there, and then I hung out a lot at night with clients.
Hmm.
So the party scene in a lot of those places was really good.
Was there a class at East or a teacher that influenced you? Um, Perhaps
Yeah, on my
beyond your,
yearbook photo it says "Thank you,
yeah,
Miss Marino,"
yeah.
and that's partially because I felt like my high school life didn't go exactly the way I wanted to, but also because she was she was really helpful to me. She taught me how to write, and she was hard on me but nice at the same time. Like um, I didn't have a lot of help with school or anything like that. And I'm not complaining. My life was pretty good. My father did the best he could. My mother did the best that she could. And but we ended up pretty independent at very young ages. And like nobody told me when the prom was. I mean, I didn't know. So I didn't have the same kind of. So I never went to the prom because I don't even think I knew when it was.
Hmm.
Let alone. So I would have had to go to my father and say, "Hey, Dad, I want to go to the prom." So Miss Marino, my father forced me, but one thing my father, really smart guy. He was Obama before there was an Obama. He's that smart. Obama has nothing on my father.
Hmm.
My father could give a presentation as good as him, maybe better. He was more intelligent, uh, or as intelligent, and would have come up with logical choices. He was a good manager, and I would be in football and basketball, and then he'd make me take all A track classes, and I was like, I'm not smart enough for all those classes. And he would, as soon as I said I'm not smart enough, he'd be pissed. And what do you mean you're not smart enough? You're going to take these classes. And I ended up with all A tracks, which was good. It ultimately helped me. I mean, A track East was harder than most colleges.
Mm.
And honors, I couldn't imagine what those people were doing in honors, because the people that were just in the A track, so the smartest people in those A track classes were really smart kids. I wasn't one of them. I had to work hard to get my numbers, and I'd usually be doing terrible in one of them, and my father would let me switch out to the B track for that one class, and then I'd go to the B track, and I that would be easy. I'd breeze through that because of the A track. But Miss Marino was an 8 track English teacher, and she was really tough, but she had a soft way of helping me. And I learned to write from her, and because of that, it's carried me through my whole entire college, and through my career, because most of the college was writing papers.
Right. Well, that's great.
So so that's the one teacher. I mean, there are other teachers in my life that have had influence, and not to just get off of Cherry Hill just for 1 second, because I do
Hmm.
need to mention this lady, because Miss Parham, and she was a elementary school teacher in Philadelphia. And the reason why I definitely want to publicly put that out there on her is because here's a black woman with an afro, not a long. She was about 6 feet tall. She didn't take no shit. She, I myself have been taken to the other room and beaten with the thing you draw circles on the blackboard with. And today they would have arrested her, but everything that she did made sense, and there was no reason and I don't regret anything that she did. And this woman taught black history at a time when they weren't teaching black history.
Yeah.
And all you got was the regular vanilla version of history, which half of it was political. And so Miss Parham, she I got to give her props for that, for doing that. But Cherry Hill East, from an educational standpoint, from a extracurricular activity, I don't have a whole lot bad to say about that school. Very well financed, very. I mean, I'm proud to say that I went there. Um, I did spend a year away. My father, like I said, he was a really smart guy, and again, here's a black guy at a time when very few even were in the same positions that he was in. And INA, that became Cigna, they sent him to MIT for a Sloan management program. It's like a 1 year special program for really smart executives, and they actually moved us to Needham, Massachusetts for a
Hmm.
year. And so I went to Needham High for 10th grade.
Okay.
I think it was 10th grade, and then we came back for the 11th and 12th grade in Cherry Hill East.
So did you have a high school sweetheart?
No, I didn't have any girlfriends in high school. I had crushes. There was a couple of girls. I had a crush on Karen. What's her name? Morris.
Oh, okay.
Going back to junior high school.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing her a whole lot when I came back from Boston.
Okay.
So I don't know what was she. Did she graduate? Do you? I don't know if you know even know Kara Morris.
No, then I want to say I remember the name, but yeah.
But I don't even know if she. I don't see when I came back from Boston. A lot of the people that I knew were all in different directions, and I had new friends then. There had been a group of black students that had come to the school,
Okay.
and although I didn't really experience a lot of significant racism in growing up in Cherry Hill because my brother and I we were there from elementary school,
Hmm.
so we knew everybody from when everybody was little.
Yeah.
So and Cherry Hill was predominantly what probably 98% white,
Yeah.
and and then there was a small. And it's funny when I look back now, I see, oh, there's an Indian guy. Yeah, there was an Indian guy. We had a couple of Chinese, Asians, and we had only a few Latinos then, but it was white, and you were either Catholic or Jewish. That was like the huge split between the white people in the town. But when I got back to the high school, there was a group of blacks that had either moved in or lived in nearby towns and went to our school. So we gravitated. My brother and I gravitated towards those groups. And when I was, we were, this was a point where we're all having our fake IDs, and we're starting to go to bars and things like that. And so we started hanging out with these guys, and I don't, you probably don't know any of them. I don't, you might know Dave Wynn. Dave Wynn was one of the stars on the basketball team. Dave Wynn and Greg Ward, and we were still in the basketball. I had a half court basketball court in front of my house, and we used to go out in front of the house and play basketball and smoke pot. Everybody in church. I don't know if you were one of the ones that smoked pot, but we did a lot of pot smoking in high school, amongst other things. Cherry Hill was like a pharmaceutical, uh, literally a pharmaceutical. One of my buddies, even I think that was ninth grade. His father owned the pharmacy, and he had every kind of pill that you could ever think of, and um, I was always open to experiment.
All right. So you say you have four kids.
Yes,
Okay. And and your youngest right now is how old?
10,
10.
10.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Derek is 10, Tabitha is 16, and John the third is 33 or 34.
Hmm.
1989 he was born.
Okay.
And then Sammy is 6 years older than him, so he's about 40.
Wow. Okay. All right. Do you have friends with the East you're still in touch with?
Well, we talked a little about before this
Hmm.
discussion that the one that I've probably been in closest contact with over the years has been Patrice.
Hmm.
Um, from time to time, Carol Raymond. I don't know if you know any of them.
I know
I'm
Patrice.
I'm in touch with on Facebook with Doug Cook's daughter. I've tried to get in touch with him. I was pretty close friends with him in school,
Hmm.
but his daughter and I talk because um, he I don't think he was married to her when she died, but his wife died,
Mm.
and oh, they lost the son, and then within a year or two after that, the mother, Doug's Doug's wife died, and so
Mm.
I kind of connected with his daughter through that tragedy
Mm.
of losing both of her brother and her mother. And I've tried to get in touch with Doug, but I'm not exactly sure where he is now. And
Mm.
he's not on Facebook. My friend Tom O'Connor, who lives uh, he lived across the lawns from me in Cherry Hill, so I'm still in touch with him.
Did he graduate with us? Yeah.
Yeah, he graduated. He graduated, and he's our same age.
Okay.
Um, the Dave Wynn, I'm sure I'm
Yeah.
friends with a bunch of people on
Right.
Facebook,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. That's
but
been a nice way of getting back in touch with folks after all these years. So, do you have a standout memory or experience from back in high school with you know, with a friend or through school?
most of my, I mean, I have certain memories that stand out. Nothing, nothing overly crazy. I mean, there's certain instances where coach, the basketball coach Valori
Yeah,
sees me
Valerie.
me and Doug Cook walking out of the woods, and he just looks at me and shakes his head, and that was probably the end of my basketball career.
Oh,
And I mean, after that, I left Cherry Hill. When I came back, I was never on the team again.
mm,
Uh, I remember a couple of big parties. Patrice had a really big party at her brother's house in Deptford or something like that, and that was a really huge party. But most of the parties I don't really remember very well. We
yeah,
did a lot of drinking back then. And I didn't, I drank like everybody else until you drank until you got drunk.
yeah.
And my high school graduation. I definitely have to. I guess that would be a standout. I was arrested
Oh my.
on high school graduation. There was a party in Woodcrest somewhere, and I was walking up to the party with a couple of friends, and the police were closing it.
Oh,
And I'm walking towards it, and the cop is telling us that we have to leave, and we're kind of walking, and then the guy decides he wants to push me. I still remember the guy's name, Maitland, Officer Maitland, and he pushed me, and I said, "Why'd you do that?" I mean, we're just walking. He just decides he's going to push me, and so I stopped, and he pushed me again, even harder. And my father had bought me these new skirt shoes, and I had like scraped them on the ground. Now I'm pissed, so I started cussing him out.
mm,
You mother effer! This is why shit happens. You mother effing pig! And, I just went off. He pissed me off, and so the guy walks over to me and he says, "One more word, and you're under arrest." And there was a car right in front of me, and I put my hands on top of the car and I said, "Bust me, you mother effer!"
mm.
And so he's walking up behind me, and then there's another cop there. I mean, I wasn't paying attention. I was so pissed. I put my hands on the car. I'm like, take me in. I don't give a shit. A couple of people that know me decided they wanted to fight.
Okay.
So now one of them is fighting on, and I don't know if you know Anthony Lizio, but Anthony Lizio, he died.
Oh,
He didn't die while we were in high school, but I heard he
mm-hmm.
died of something. Um, he's not around anymore. But Anthony started fighting with the cop on the hood of the car, and I kind of turned to the side a little bit to just like look, and the police dog bit me.
Oh my gosh.
And Anthony, the guy's trying to hit Anthony with his flashlight. Anthony gets away. Nobody else gets arrested, but they arrest me, and then they take me to the police station. And it's Cherry Hill. I mean, it's not like, I think I was the only one in the cell that they put me in, and it wasn't like the jail that everybody describes as, I never want to go back to jail again.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and uh, they charged me with disturbing the peace, resisting arrest, and attempted bodily harm to an officer. They threw these other charges in because the police dog bit me. And so I guess that is a memory. Now I went to court. My father paid like $500 for a lawyer or something like that. He picked me up that same night. Um, and I would say we won the case because I when and I would say I had a lot to do with that. Um, because I told the judge exactly what I told you, and I except for I gave him all the expletives. I said he asked me to
Hmm.
tell the truth. This is what I said, so I was very believable. And they I probably should have been able to sue them,
Yeah.
but I wasn't even thinking, and the lawyer didn't really, back in those days, I guess you didn't win cases like that.
Yeah.
And uh, but they basically gave me disturbing the peace, and that's it. They got rid of everything else, which, like I said, I would say we won. I would say I definitely disturbed the peace because I was going off. I had lost it, and I cussed him all the way back to the police station.
Yeah.
Because I felt like there was no reason for him to
Yeah.
have done what he did. I was not walking into the party. We were
Right.
just walking across the lawn, and I basically said, me going on record with this, the next guy you do this to, you won't get away with it.
Yeah. We're back in 1980 and you're looking out, and here you are 40 years. Did you see yourself here?
I didn't really, I was thinking about it as I had the little break. I don't remember really even thinking about anything other than, oh, I just wanted to be a star basketball player. That would have been the only thing. But without that, it was just I never really looked at a certain future.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't looking at myself. Well, I'm going to be married and I'm going to have 3 kids. I mean, I liked kids. Um, the 2 younger ones that I have right now, those were somewhat unexpected, only because I thought I was done. And when I had my daughter, it kind of changed my perspective a little bit, because with my older kids, I was always working or playing basketball or doing something. I was a lot younger, so I was still very active and had a lot of friends and a lot of things going on all the time. Whereas my wife pretty much handled the home. So with these 2 younger ones right now, I spend a lot more time with them,
Okay.
being dad, because their mother, we were splitting time with them, and for the last, they didn't really want to move where she moved, so both of them ended up staying with me for like the last 2 years. I've been mom, and I've had them pretty much full time.
Yeah.
So did I see myself being full time mom dad? Definitely didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Especially with the ego kind of a guy that I was, when my other two were. I was the world traveling executive.
Yeah. So, did you enjoy high school?
um yeah, I mean, I did not enjoy it. I mean, like prom and things like that, girlfriends and things like that. I don't think, I feel like I didn't succeed in those areas. But I had a good time, and I had good friends over the years.
Yeah.
I think there's more that I probably could have done in high school. There's probably some things that I would have done differently. Like I said, I would have probably done wrestling.
So, what's
But
the best piece of advice you would have given your 18-year-old self? Or maybe you gave your 18-year-old kid?
wow, that's a tough one. You know, I mean, I think there's a certain fear that goes along with certain things. Um, Probably not to not not to be as afraid to take certain actions. Other than that, I mean, I don't feel like I have any regrets.
Oh, good.
All of it leads to who you end up becoming.
So true.
Um, I didn't really experience any really seriously life threatening situations, and for being a very small minority, in terms of being black in Cherry Hill at a time when things weren't perfect. um, I I didn't really run into any real difficulties like that either. I mean, we had our fair share of racial fights, but nobody was shooting anybody or stabbing anybody or anything like that.
Yeah,
No, no, I don't feel like I have any regrets over how things went.
good. So we're at the point in our chat where I'm calling this our fast and furious finish. It's usually never not fast or furious, but so did you have a favorite TV show or a favorite movie if you can remember from back in the 70s there, or a book that you enjoyed back in high school?
And you're asking a 62-year-old man to to remember things.
Well, a lot of things that people
my,
that
my,
they this SNL comes up a lot with favorite shows and
I mean, I watched that one.
yeah.
I don't remember having any real. I probably hang up with you and then I'll remember something. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't I don't I don't remember having anything.
Yeah.
The only movie that ever comes to mind for me, but it wasn't in the '80s, that and people, because it's a movie that nobody ever sees as their favorite movie, but I don't know why it's like my favorite movie is Any Given Sunday.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a good
It's
one.
a football
Football
movie.
one. Yep.
Like
Yep.
that's like my, I don't know why, but that's like my favorite. Every time somebody asks me what's your favorite movie, I say, well, that's my favorite movie.
Yeah. So did you have a favorite musical group or genre of music, artist back in high school? Do you remember
I,
folks you
I
used to
was
listen
I
to?
was I was very well rounded because growing up in Cherry Hill, I grew up with all the rock and roll, Kansas, The Who, Yes.
Mm.
Uh, we went to the Blue Oyster Cult Man for Man concert. Uh, you know, um, so I grew up with all that stuff. Leonard Skinner, all those guys. My friends used to have a band, and they would play the Leonard Skinner song perfectly.
Hmm.
And but I wouldn't say rock and roll was my favorite music.
Hmm.
Um, uh, because we hung out with some of the black guys that had come into Cherry Hill. We started partying in Philadelphia and certain parties in South Jersey, and that was more black music, dance music, club music, and so I like that music. I like the dance music too. I like to dance and party, and this was at the time the Sixers were successful. We used to see Darryl Dawkins and Lloyd Free and a bunch of those guys out at some of the parties that we used to go to.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
this was when the Emerald City had.
Oh yeah.
It used to be the Latin Casino. It became Emerald City. We saw Prince there. He wasn't even that popular because the place like it was hardly any people. I mean, it wasn't like full the night we actually saw Prince there. We um,
That must have been amazing.
Well, no, you just didn't really see it as amazing. It just happened,
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of people there. We were right next to the stage,
That's
and
cool.
he wasn't popular like he became
Yeah.
when we saw him there. You know, so it didn't feel like that.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it probably should have.
Yeah.
And but so I like that music. But is none of those are my favorite. I end up marrying a Puerto Rican woman. She's the mother of my son, and so I was introduced to salsa, and I like salsa, and um, I like when I lived in New York during college, house music was the thing, and I would say that that's probably my favorite genre of music. But they didn't have that in when we were in high school. At
Right.
least I don't. They might have had it, but I didn't. I didn't know that music then.
Yeah. So do you have a favorite place to hang out with friends or eat? A lot of folks mention the diners and stuff. Any place that you
All those diners were cool, but I didn't have a car when I
uh
was in Cherry Hill. Um, so I do remember hitchhiking to the speed line and back from the speed line many times. I had a golden thumb, You know, but then we started hanging out near the ending years of high school. I probably spent more time hanging out in Philly.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Mm,
because my family, my mother lived there, and you know, the bigger clubs in the city was Philadelphia, so we were going down there.
yeah.
Um,
All right. Remember that guy?
I don't. Is that from the yearbook? See,
That's
I
from
don't
the
have that.
yearbook.
You need to send that picture to me. I don't
Oh
even think
yeah.
I have it. I don't even think I have a yearbook.
Oh yeah, I'll send it to you for sure. So you like your photo? You have a good
I
quote. Like you
I don't
said,
know.
thank you, Miss Marina.
Yes, I know. I know that that's what I wrote because that's the only thing I could think of to say.
Yeah. So, one of my next to last question is, what language did you take? Because we all had to take a language, and have you ever found it useful?
I always took Spanish. I don't know
Okay.
why.
All right.
I remember being in a Spanish class and the teacher telling us, "Well, we're gonna speak Spanish while we're in this class," and that was so much pressure. I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't take this class so I could really speak it. Just I just wanted to take the class." And yeah, I definitely use that. I'm reasonably bilingual in Spanish and English now. Haiti, who I was married to and never divorced for 30 some odd years, she's Puerto Rican, so there was a lot of Spanish in that relationship. But she spoke more English than I spoke Spanish, so we spoke English together. But I learned a lot of Spanish through her and her family, and then her son, who was my oldest, he actually was somewhat bilingual. But while I was traveling in business, many years later, I was in Colombia, and they don't speak a lick of English where I was.
Okay.
I had to speak Spanish, and just 2 days there, I came back being able to have conversations in Spanish, and that's carried me through to today, where my children, my son that's here harassing this phone call, he speaks mostly Spanish. I have to speak Spanish to him,
Okay.
and they understand my bad Spanish,
Okay. All right. So
and I did
it
take
did pay
classes.
off. It did pay off down the road.
It did pay off.
Good. So lastly, anything you want to say to our classmates who are listening, kind of your parting shots? We're at the end of our chat here. Anything you want to?
Uh, Cherry Hill was a wonderful place to grow up. Cherry Hill East was a great school. You know, it was a lot crazier then than I think it is now. My father, it's funny because my father ended up till recently teaching as a substitute there, which was surprising to me that he would end up at Cherry Hill East. And from what I understand, the school is a lot more diverse than it was now,
Okay.
than it was when we grew up there. And I guess they don't get away with the craziness. I guess we had C Wing and there was a lot of drugs in that school, man. I mean, I don't know what's there now, man, but it's amazing that a lot of us made it out.
Well, John, thank you so much for spending time with me this afternoon. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank
And
you
and
for
I'll yeah.
helping to bring back some of these memories after all these years. And
Oh,
I definitely
absolutely.
appreciate what you're doing. I think it's a wonderful thing.
Well, thanks. Well, enjoy your 2024 and go Sixers and
Go six, go everything Philly.
yeah, go everything Philly. All right, man. Take care of those
Thank you.
kids.
Thanks, sir. All right. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
John. Bye.
Yep.
Thanks for joining me on It's Been How Long? The podcast about Cherry Hill High School East students from the late 1970s and the early 80s. A shout out to my cousin Brad Corbett, whose podcast We Weren't Friends in High School inspired me to do this podcast and whose advice and encouragement have been so helpful. Thanks also to my husband, Randy Coughdale, who read all the fine print on the podcast hosting website so I wouldn't have to. And thanks to Jeff Lyons, content consultant and guinea pig, and to Deborah Smead, also content consultant. And thank you to all our classmates who are listening in. See you next week.